Welcome back. You're listening to the Cinema Condition with filmmaker and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, the Nerd Chicano, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And I'm here to host the show, as always, with my new guest with a new film. Well, not really a new guest, because today we have ourselves another returning guest. I want to thank you all so much for the support and the love on last week's episode of The Handmaiden with Leah Burns. And I was really happy to bring back another guest last week, and I'm gonna go ahead and be doing the same thing right today. I don't know why I've got all these tongue twisters going on today, but I'm bringing back another guest today, and that is none other than from the very first episode, the person I pitched the show to, and she was down to do the episode with me later that week. That is none other than the good old Alejandra Almeida. How are you doing?
What? I'm doing well.
Yeah, polished off the microphone. Back. You polished off the microphone just to come back.
A dusty microphone.
Yeah. I'm really happy to have you here, dude. Last time we spoke, we talked about Gaspar Noe's Climax, and it was the first episode we ever did, and the people loved it.
And I hope it put a lot of people on to Gaspar if they hadn't already known about him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now with the quarantine, everybody's got time to watch a lot of movies now if you're not essential. So, there's a lot of movies you guys can catch up on. So I should probably do a page on the website for Cinema Condition recommended viewings for the films that we cover on the show, and have like links available for you guys where to be able to find those movies, to watch them or stream them. But that's stuff that I should probably be doing off air, not announcing on air. But what's it called? Alex, as always, she's the official, artist here at the Nerdcore, and she makes all the wonderful stuff. You guys, I hope you guys don't forget who she is, because she's the one who makes all these things happen, because she puts a nice image right there for us and to keep pushing the brand forward. And I want to say that I'm still a huge fan of this logo, Alex. This logo is amazing.
Oh, good. I'm glad, because I have more of alternates of the logo, but I just never sent them to you because I was like, no, I don't want it.
Well, now you should send them to me just so I can see what's up, what could have been. But this, I am in love with this one. It's honestly one of my favorites of the stuff you've made, because you've made some really good stuff, and I want to thank you again for the new overlays for the live show, because wow, if you saw the one I made. Oh, wow. Yeah. There was parts where I even forgot to erase the whole call in and stuff, and it was just white on the side of the video. And yeah, I have no business being a graphic designer. That is all you. That is all you.
Well, thanks for letting me do it. I've had a lot of fun making all the graphics.
Yeah, no, you're the best. And today we're going to be discussing Gaspar Noe's Love from 2015. And as always, I mean, we continue on with another Gaspar. But Alex, when you came on the first time, you didn't actually get to call dibs on a film, because I hadn't implemented that rule until the third episode. So, I practically announced it on Twitter, but you want to announce it to the people what film you actually called dibs on for season 2?
I called dibs on what is now my favorite film of all time, Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Wow, it's your favorite movie of all time. That's crazy. What did it beat out?
Beat out Moonlight and Jaws.
Damn. I mean, Moonlight is a heavy contender to beat out. That's crazy.
So Selena
Sciamma, yeah.
She read my mind as far as what movies look like and what lesbian love story should look like. So props to her, and thank you for that.
Well, in 16 more episodes, we'll be hitting season 2, and then hopefully be able to talk about that film when we come back for a second season. And yeah, I'm really happy. You crushed so many people's dreams with that one. Leah Burns wanted to call that one, and you literally messaged me in the morning, because I had sent the night before. I said, hey, you didn't get to call dibs on a film. You still have one that you want to call dibs on? And you said, yeah, I want to do Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And then Leia answers during the middle of the day later in the afternoon or evening. And she's like, hey, I want to do Portrait of a Lady on Fire for the next for season 2 as well. And I was like, I'm really sorry. Alex just called dibs on that one.
Swooped. I had to swoop in. I'm actually surprised that it wasn't taken already.
Same.
Because I was kind of late to watching it.
I was really surprised too because I mean the film was well, you know, I think it really got big this year because of it going to Hulu, but it was still being talked about a lot last year around the critic space and, you know, the blogs. So I thought somebody would be like, oh, you know what? I really want to talk about Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, call dibs on it. But I'm surprised that it was not called dibs on until you came in. And I'm just happy because for once, what's it called? I got to crack bad news to somebody that their movie their movie choice was already taken, because that kind of put the awkwardness up front before I had to do it like later on in the season. But you know, finally I did that, and I also am really excited because I love that film. It's the best movie I watched this year. It's not the best movie of this year because it's not a movie that came out this year. It came out last year, but it was the best theater experience I've had this year, and it's up there with The Invisible Man as well as best theater experiences. So I love that movie, and I can't wait to talk about it next season with you.
It's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. And all right, well, what's it called? We're gonna go ahead and get into our discussion about Love 2015. And I've already introduced Gaspar, so I really don't need to introduce him anymore. I do want to ask you though, why did you pick Love?
I feel like has always been one of my favorite of his. The reason I went with Climax first was because I had just seen Climax, so it was like super fresh, and I was like really excited about it. But Love has always been like my go-to. Like when someone's like, "Oh, who's this Gaspar Noe guy?" And I tell them, "Go watch Love," and you'll find out.
Yeah, and I will go ahead and top that for you. This is my favorite film from Gaspar. I think this is his masterpiece. I love this movie, and this is my 4th time rewatch. I think I want to say 5th actually. I don't remember too well, but this is like already like multiple viewings, and every single time I love it even more. I just grow more appreciation for this film, and I'm glad that you chose this one. I still would have done any other movie you chose, right? You know, that's the whole point of the show. But when you said Love, I was like, oh, yes, I get to rewatch this, and I rewatched it after rewatching what's it called, the Handmaiden too, which is fun. I was like, okay, I'm going from one erotic drama to another erotic drama.
Right? Too culturally different too.
Exactly. And I wanted to ask that because, you know, it's one of our favorite movies of all time, and it's also, you know, probably one of the most you know, it's controversial because, you know, it was in 3D and people hated this movie. Like they thought it was just Gaspar throwing around porn on the screen, and they said, and you know, they just absolutely hated this. Look, he didn't have to make it 3D. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. He wanted the flex, and he did it in 3D. There's no reason this movie should have been 3D.
He was like, "Look what I can do," and I just did it.
Yeah, look what I can do, and you just did it. So there was no reason for this to have a 3D screening. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Like I love the man, but sometimes he likes to flex because he knows he can make people mad, and that is probably one of the worst things about Gaspar. But hey, you know, he gets to laugh all the way to the bank, and
he likes to troll.
he likes to troll. That's why when he heard that a lot of people liked Climax, he said, well, damn, I really wanted people to hate the movie. Like, you know, I guess I have to make something really really bad next time so people can hate me again. But yeah, I what's it called, with this one, like people hated this, and there was a lot of talk about, you know, it being pornography. And of course, I've watched so many interviews on Gaspar with this film, and he always constantly, what's it called, debunks the idea of this being pornography. Instead, he calls it carnal love. He says this is real emotional carnal love, and he says that that in pornography is just the act. It's not the, what's it called, the feeling or the emotion behind sex. He says that pornography, in pornography, you never see the actresses get pregnant, and you never see them, what their lives are behind the camera, what the life beyond just the act. You know, you don't see an actual story being told. It's just pleasure for the eyes, and love is definitely not just pleasure for the eyes. There's a story behind love, and there's a deeper sense to it that I think that Gaspar does a really good job of portraying in here.
Totally. You know, like you said, it's carnal love, and it doesn't show. You know, I mean, it's mindless. Pornography is mindless. It's there for one point, is to get the viewer off completely, and what the movie is meant to do is bring you into their lives and their whole relationship, the whole relationship, the good and the bad.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when I saw those when I saw those interviews with Gaspar, and, you know, he would just put this face like, I got to explain again why this isn't pornography, and it's really interesting, and I wanted to bring up the what's it called, the, you know, little trivia stuff in here, because I think it's really interesting. So here's some stuff that I found out about Gaspar Noé's love. Gaspar Noé said that he did not direct the actors having sex or choreograph them. He just said he put them in their positions with respect to the camera, and then say, okay, it looks good, start the scene, let's go. He added, once you put people in the right position, it's okay, they know how to do it. Yes, and the only scenes that are not simulated sex are the ones without just Ayomi and Carl Glusman. Yomi Muyak and Carl Glusman. So anything that has Clara Kirsten and the other girl are completely simulated, because they were not comfortable with performing unsimulated sex. So they needed direction from Gaspar on how to perfect that scene. But everything that's between Ayomi Muyak and Carl Glusman is completely unsimulated. It is completely improvised by them both. Gaspar.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, and we're gonna go ahead and talk more about it. But let me do this next one, because this one's really interesting. Gaspar Noé first wanted to make Love 2015 before Irreversible 2002, and pitched the project to stars Monica Bellucci and Vincent Cassel as a project with unsimulated sex shown on camera. They actually agreed to star in the project, and Noé set about writing the script. When they finally read the script, they felt uncomfortable sharing their sex life with the world, and also specifically with sharing their sex life with the world, and also specifically with a threesome with a transgender woman. So the project was scrapped, and Noé instead made Irreversible 2002. With which, while it featured plentiful full frontal nudity from both stars, did not feature real sex on screen. Noé then revived the project many years later and made it in its present form. Well, you know, it was 2002. It's crazy though, because what's it called? A lot, and this is just something I've noticed from, you know, watching. What's it called? I'm watching Irreversible, Enter the Void, Love, and Climax. I think every single one of his films after I Stand Alone has what's it called, included LGBTQ characters and LGBTQ actors.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain what goes on his head. I mean, we can never tell, right? Unless we have a conversation with him. But he just doesn't, he kind of brings everybody in.
He brings so the way that he casted this film, he already had he already casted Carl Glusman, and he didn't have anybody else. He went to clubs, and from the people he met at the clubs, he casted Ayomi Muyak and Clara Kirsten. Yeah, so I mean, there's this way. Yeah, it's insane, because there's this way that Gaspar,
especially with Ayomi.
Mm-hmm.
So, she had no actress experience at all previous to this role?
I believe she did a short before this, but this was her. I think this was her first feature debut.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Carl Glusman was acting before this, and, you know, after this he would do Nocturnal Animals, and now he's on Devs and stuff, and, you know, I mean, Carl Glusman had experience, but I don't think Ayomi did. And then Clara Kirsten, she didn't have experience at all. She was a painter, I believe.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting because Elektra's character is a painter.
Yeah. And so, at the press conference, he also said that this is the part that I love the most. He said that the script for this film was 7 pages long. No, that is not the shortest script Gaspar has done. For Climax, he literally came in with a 1-page outline. He didn't have a script.
Incredible.
I told Alex about this, and she goes, "Dude, I wonder how his pitches are. Like, that's crazy."
How does he pitch to production? They're like, okay, give us like an outline and then give us the script. And then he's just like, oh, here's just a couple pages. That's everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what's it called? Gaspar had a very minimal crew on the days of actually filming the sex scenes. There was there wasn't a big crew there on those days. So you see, look, here it goes. Actresses Naomi Moyak and Clara Kirsten were not actresses, and Gaspar found them accidentally while out partying. He said he would constantly do this, meet beautiful young people and ask them if they wanted to be in the movies, but in supporting roles, even though he was testing them for lead roles, but he did not want to get them excited and then disappointed. If they showed interest, he would pull out his mobile phone camera and film them to see if they were photogenic, and if yes, he would finally have them test with lead Carl Grossman to finalize them for the project. Wow.
Knows how to network.
The man knows how to network. So apparently, if you want to make your movies, you go to the Parisian clubs.
Go to the club. Yeah.
Go to the club. Instead of why am I crying in the club? Why am I casting in the club? Yeah.
Full on casting auditions.
Just long casting auditions. Let's just go outside right now. Like, the music's too loud. Let's go hold a casting audition outside the club. But yeah, I mean, this man, I admire. I really do admire this man. I think I read something that he said that that is honestly the way that I feel about my future career in this industry. Gaspar said that he doesn't worry about making big money from his movies. He just wants to pay his rent and make the art that he wants to make. And I think that's honestly why I admire the man so much. This movie is so unapologetically his film. It is so much just Gaspar unleashing just how creative he is and making the movie he's always wanted to make since before Irreversible. And I love this movie so much, Alex.
It's incredible. And it has everything that he usually induces into the movie. So it's got like drugs, sex, love, emotion, like everything that he normally does or that he would focus on in the other movies. He kind of threw it all in this one little pot for this one.
Exactly. And it's interesting because, his passion project was Enter the Void. So when he finally got to make that one, that was the one that it's like, oh, this is actually the one movie I really, really wanted to make. That was his passion project for so long. But it's like, this feels like this has been a passion project for so long too. Like this, because there's so much care and tender, the care for the craft around this film. That is just from everything from like the angles that he chooses to film the sex scenes in and the music that he chooses to include in them. Like, it just feels like this is something that he's always kind of wanted to make and he's kind of had in the back of his head. And it's sad that it was only until 2015 he was able to make it. Because I really would have been interested to see how this would have been with Cassell and Bellucci.
Yeah, that would have been interesting too. And they were young then too, so it would have been really interesting.
Yeah, that would have been so. I think it would have been really different, but I understand that them not wanting to put their sex life out there. It's just some people aren't just that open about it, and it looks like, to me, honestly, if you would have told me Carl Glusman and Naomi Moyak were not a couple, I would have been like, "Are you serious?" Because like they're literally having sex like if they are one. Like they literally know each other so well, apparently.
I wonder if they like I don't know. I don't even know if Gaspar has like readings or anything like that. I feel like he doesn't. I feel like he just goes in and it's like, okay, we're gonna go shoot this day. Come in.
I just want to talk to this man for once. Like I just want to talk to him. I want to get inside that head and understand how it works, because I think there's just like so many things inside that head about the way that he works that would really value the industry because he doesn't care about how he finances his films. Like, if he doesn't get the money for it, he doesn't get the money for it. He's not gonna bend back. He's not gonna bend backwards to financiers to make his movie. Like, he'll just go shop it to somebody else then.
He doesn't. I don't know. I like the way he moves, because I feel like he has an idea, he runs with it. He doesn't necessarily ask for too many outside permission or anything like that. He just kind of rolls with it. But he's respectful about it too. Like you said, like on the sex scenes, he didn't have a lot of crew there, just the ones that were absolutely necessary. And you can tell he speaks to his actors before and asks them. I mean, I think when we talked about in Climax, you said that he had mentioned that he told the actors, pick who you want to make out with, or pick who you want to have a sex scene with.
Yeah.
Like whoever you feel comfortable with,
Yeah. Yeah, he's always about putting the what's it called, the actors in front, like not having to direct them that much, because it messes up the art form of it. I mean, we go back, and I know we're kind of playing around too much by talking about the man himself, but we're gonna get into the movie right now. And I know this is probably gonna be a longer episode than I intended to be. With Irreversible, that scene, that rape scene, it is completely Monica Bellucci's scene, because she had every single input in how it needed to be portrayed. That's not Gaspar's direction. That's mostly Monica. She's the one who had complete control over how that scene plays out.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's,
Yeah.
In order for it to not feel real, she has to, call the shots in that.
Yeah. So it's interesting that such a director like Gaspar understands, like, giving a little bit of control to the actors, and also, telling them, like, this is who you can make out with. You can make out with whoever you want. Because like when I read about the unsimulated sex, he could have easily told Kirsten, like, no, this is my movie. You're gonna do it the way I want it. It's gonna be unsimulated sex. But instead, he understands, and he says, you know what? It's fine. I'll direct how you need to do it. Like, I'm not gonna make you have unsimulated sex here. Like, if it's not something you're comfortable with, why do I need to put you in that danger?
And it shows. I feel like it'll show. No matter how good the actor, it's hard to hide how uncomfortable you are. Like, your body language will say it. It'll just screw with anything. So the fact that he's very conscious and asks his actors, like, what are you comfortable with? What's, your boundaries, this and that, and then just go with it. Like, do what comes natural and comfortable for you. And it shows, because the scenes are incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So once again, I guess now we can actually introduce this and say that Love is about an American student studying cinema in France, in Paris, and he falls in love and dates this French painter, art student. And if that's not the film student dream of dating an art student, I don't know what is, because literally that's like as somebody who's in film school, like film students always seem to gravitate towards art students, and anybody who's actually working in the artistic medium. So it's interesting that he put that in there, that she was an art student. And yeah, so he falls in love with her, and they have a threesome with another Parisian woman who's 16 at the time, and Murphy, who's played by Carl Glusman, impregnates the French woman, the French younger woman, and which causes a whole stir in the relationship between Electra and Murphy. And we see the journey of Murphy, reminiscing on the life that he once had and how it affects the life that he has at the moment. And yeah, that's Love 2015. I want, the first thing I want to talk about, and I really got to just start this first. I'm always fascinated by the way that Gaspar portrays men in his movies.
Yeah, he doesn't depict them as some heroic.
Mm-hmm.
The good guy, the whole, this guy is an upstanding citizen. No, he he doesn't give that fluff. I don't know. He doesn't do the Hollywood fluff, I guess.
No, which is probably why the man has not had the luck of actually making a Hollywood film, which is interesting. But the men in his film are always very, with the exception of climax. If we're talking pre-climax, the men in his film are very are not the best people that you want to be around. They're very rough. They're very arrogant, and they're very hyper masculine. They like Irreversible. Vincent Cassel's character is fixated with revenge because he feels the need to avenge what happened to Monica Bellucci's character. And in this one, especially Murphy, because he's a foreigner inside France. He brings this American mindset of how you treat women in America, when he doesn't even understand yet know about the way that you treat women in France.
He brings in the whole you're mine, you're my possession. Nobody could touch you. Nobody could, even look at you in an affectionate way, or I'm gonna freak out. Like, that's his whole thing that I think shows throughout the whole movie, is his inability to just be with her. Like, he's always kind of allowing other people to dictate their relationship.
Yeah, and he gets really jealous when Elektra goes to the art gallery, and he talks to somebody who's probably a really, really good network to be talking to, and because she's being introduced to him by her ex-boyfriend. And he gets automatically super jealous. He calls her a bitch, and it's and the same way, Elektra is like, calm down, I just went to go talk to any other boyfriend would be try to be understanding, like, this is something huge for your girlfriend, like this could easily be something that helps her career.
Right. Instead of being supportive, he freaks out. And can we talk about that scene real quick, because I was laughing rewatching it, where Gaspar, because it is Gaspar.
Yes, it is him with I believe a wig. I believe that's a wig.
Yeah.
He looks good with that type of hair, by the way.
He does. He looks very dapper. But he walks into the scene as Elektra's ex. She introduces him. He looks at Murphy and he goes, "Oh, is this your brother?" I was dying. I was like, "Oh my god."
Which I'm telling you,
being thrown.
He easily.
Oh no, this is my boyfriend.
Yeah, he easily knows how to write comedy. Like this, the man is funny. Like there's other stuff in his movies that are really funny too. Other than the really hard portrayals of what he's tackling. But there's some moments where he's actually really funny. And when he asks him if that's his brother, it's like, oh dude, that's fucking hilarious. Like that's like the biggest low blow you can give a couple, because you're like. Well, damn, do I really look like her brother? Like, that must be terrible, dude.
I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah. And, and he even gets like a little bit, he even gets a bit, defensive, because he asks him like, oh, what do you do? He goes, are you an artist? Because, of course he's dating Elektra, an artist. And, he goes, I'm a filmmaker. And he gets really defensive about it, if another fellow artist wouldn't consider that art, which Elektra does probably consider it art, and it's interesting that Murphy gets really defensive about it.
He does. He gets it's like triggered in a way, and it's funny too, because how Gaspar is in the scene, and then I don't know, the way he does things, he puts like little Easter eggs and everything. So I thought that was kind of cool with the whole, no, I'm a filmmaker, and Gaspar's character is just kind of like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, okay.
Well, he's probably saying cool. Because he made this film inspired by the people he knew in film school and his friends.
Oh,
he said very much these are the people he used to hang out with all the time, and he would go to clubs with, and so it's interesting if this is something that that happened to Gaspar once in his life, where Maybe he did go to an art gallery and some, art snob was like, are you an artist? And put like a face when he said no, he was a filmmaker. It's interesting. It's interesting you bring up the Easter eggs too. Like, there's a bunch of Easter eggs. On the wall with all the movies that Murphy has, I Stand Alone is in there. The first feature film from Gaspar. He also has the Love Hotel from Enter the Void. He also has.
I saw that.
He has posters of several of Gaspar's favorite films, like Salo, Frankenstein, Taxi Driver, Birth of a Nation. And it's he really puts those things because he knows how a what's it called, a film student really is, and that's literally the room of a film student. And I'm guessing that was the room of a film student. What's up?
That you make visuals of your inspirations. And
exactly.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'm guessing because the modern film student nowadays, instead of it being those posters, it'd probably be a Pulp Fiction poster up there. But this is probably the what's it called, the film student from like the 80s who was going to school at the time. With Taxi Driver that came on like in the 70s, and it's interesting. And Murphy is also he's very possessive. He's also he goes off the cuff when he finds Electra after they broke up with Diego, his friend, and he tells him that he's gonna kill him, he's gonna rip his head off, he's gonna put his and I repeat, he's gonna put his nuts so far up his ass and then fuck him in the ass so hard so they come out of his head. And like obviously Murphy has a lot of anger issues, which a lot of the men in his films seem to have. A lot of them have a pre-climax, because a lot of the men in climax are actually pretty, for the most part. Some of them are assholes, but for like Daddy, he's a good person. Daddy's a good person, and
Daddy's just chilling.
Yeah, he's just chilling. Yeah. There's just some misunderstood characters. Like I believe David was his name. The one who was gay, but he never had sex before or never been with a man before. Like, so he's like constantly trying to find something. So for the most part, most of the men in climax are actually pretty good people. But pre-climax in these films, a lot of the men have anger issues. A lot of them are very very possessive and very very one-dimensional. There's not much substance to them like the women in his films.
They're very, I think the most common thing with all those guys were insecure.
Mm-hmm.
They felt threatened a lot in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I know when, what I thought was interesting was when they're in the taxi car ride and they're screaming at each other, Electra and Murphy, and they're yelling at each other, and he's going off. He's calling her a bitch. He's calling her, stupid cunt, all these things. Yeah. And he goes and throws in, your paintings fucking suck. I've never liked her. He's going off about like her work, like the things that she's put time in, and she gets quiet for a second.
Yeah.
And then she starts screaming at him like, you're, a piece of shit and all that stuff.
Yeah. And it's just like
see how it bothers him.
Yeah. And you see that through all those fights, Electra never personally insults Murphy. He never personally insults the art that he makes. He never insults anything. But by the way, we never see any of the art that Murphy makes. We're always constantly seeing Electra's work, and other than the photographs that he takes of Electra, we never do see anything that Murphy creates. But Electra always, even though she is screaming at him, she never really goes beyond calling him a terrible person, and other than that, she never insults him. She never insults his parents. She never says that he won't be able to be a good father. But Murphy calls her, and I repeat, and this is one of the most interesting. He calls him a venomous cunt. Like, yeah, and Carl Glusman says that with the most absolute guttural feeling. I give so much props to Carl Glusman. He makes me hate this guy so much.
Really does. And he's so good at it. And when he says that, he says, what do you say? Oh, you'll never be able to mother a child
Yeah.
because you're a venomous cunt. And I was just like, oh God.
Yeah, and he calls her a
not just say
whore,
that.
and he calls her a whore, and he says, what's it called, and he's trash and stuff, and he's just constantly saying things to her, and it's like, dude, stop, please. First of all, you're inside a taxi with a driver you don't know. Like, you could...
The driver yelled at him too.
Yeah, I think... we don't get subtitles for that part, but I'm pretty sure he said, hey, guys, could you calm down? Like, I'm literally, I'm trying to... It's like, please, calm down. But... I know he says s'il vous plaît, which is please. So I'm pretty sure he said, could you guys please calm down? But we never what's it called? Yeah, the women in his films, Elektra's not perfect. Elektra cheated on him. Elektra, what's it called? Was addicted to drugs, and she was not the perfect person. But she never took things to the extent that Murphy took it, where she was calling them names and saying things about her art. And it's very interesting because it's, once again, it's that feeling of possession of her, that feeling of American possession of something,
the whole I own you type of feeling thing. And yeah, she was definitely not a perfect character. She had her flaws and everything, and she did cheat with her ex. And But one thing is that she did completely differently from Murphy, aside from just not being possessive, is she told him, you live in fear. Jealous all the time. You live in fear that you're going to, basically lose me to somebody else.
Yeah.
But he has her. And he knows that because she tells him all the time. She tells him, I love you. I'm in love with you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she also tells him, you want, just tell me how you're feeling and tell me what you want.
Yeah, she
you can
says
do whatever you want.
She says probably one of my favorite lines in this movie. You could have a lot of freedom if you just tell me what you want. You could do a lot of things. Basically saying, like, you just run them by me. Like, just communicate with me and tell me what you want, and we'll get to there. Like, I'm pretty sure, and I don't want to make decisions for a character that I didn't write. But I'm pretty sure if he wanted to see another woman at the same time while he was dating her, if he would have just communicated that, I'm pretty sure she would have been okay with it.
Think so too, yeah.
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 But instead he, what's it called? He cheats on her, on this girl. He meets at a party, and what's it called? He doesn't man up to it. He says that they were just doing coke in the bathroom, but it was all a lie. He's a lie.
Fly was open.
His fly was open, and he's like, oh well. And even then, after that, he still tries to cover it up. Like, no, I didn't do anything. Like, dude, your fly's open. Come on.
And she even says, I was the one knocking on the door. I heard you.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, what did you hear? Like, dude, like. She like, it's a sense, once again, like, us as men, we think that we can cover things up really well. Like, there's something there that we can cover up. Like, we just have to try really hard. Like, we want to turn things on the other and say, like, oh no, you're the one who's crazy. Like, you think you heard something. Like, nothing happened. Like, my fly's down. What? I was using the restroom and doing coke. Like, I can't use the restroom. Like, it's just stuff like that, And it's interesting because she, like I said, she probably would have let him fuck her if they would have just communicated that he wants to also see other people at the same time that she's with him.
Yeah. And what was it? Oh, when they went to that sex club.
Yes.
And he was, screwing another woman there, and she goes off with another woman, and then they're doing stuff together. When she pulls Murphy away to come join her, and he comes join her to come and join her, but he sees her getting pleasure from somebody else, and he freaks out.
Yeah.
He instantly freaks out.
Yeah.
And so he starts going off, and he's like, why would you, let me convince you to come here? And she's all, it was your idea. And he's all, but you're supposed to stop me when I have a stupid idea.
Yeah.
And then she's just looking at him like, what?
Yeah, like, it's this sense of, like, babying your partner. Having to stop your partner from doing, like, if your partner doesn't have a mind of his own, that he can make his own decisions. He's a big boy, He's got his own apartment in Paris. He goes to school. He probably has a job. He can take care of himself. So why does Elektra need to bring it up? Like, this isn't the best idea we have. And it's interesting because, you know, Elektra had no problem that he was pleasuring this other girl, and by the looks of it, what's it called, all that noise that was happening, he was probably hitting it good. So, you know, he was having a good time. She was probably having a good time as well. And she had no problem, you know, what's it called, was him doing that. She just wanted him to join in on her, with her.
Right.
And
right.
But the minute that she starts to feel pleasure and she starts to, what's it called, have a good time, is when there's a problem.
Right. And she's also the one that brought the idea to the table of the threesome, which turns their lives upside down, basically.
Yes.
Because he asked her, you know, what's your fantasy or one of your fantasies? And she said, you know, bringing another woman into bed with us and stuff. And he's like, really? That's mine too.
Yeah.
And so glad they agreed on that, but he had to go and screw it up later on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, Murphy understands the error of his ways. He understands at the wrong time, like literally at the dead last minute when Elektra probably already killed herself, and he notices these things, and he's like, well, you know, now I have to live with the burden of, you know, probably being one of the main causes my ex-girlfriend just killed herself, but also being also being the reason why I'm so unhappy.
Right, yeah, because I don't know if we explained this in the beginning, but basically the way the movie starts off, it starts off with a sex scene, but it goes into him in his current life, and he's just kind of narrating over it, and he just sounds like the most miserable person on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, he hates his life. He hates, you know, being with this, what's her name again? Omi?
Omi, yeah.
Omi, yeah, being with Omi, who's the 16-year-old that he ended up getting pregnant. And he just hates it, and he's miserable, and he's talking about how much he misses Elektra. But they haven't spoken in...
months.
What, months? Yeah, months. And he gets a phone call from her mother, Elektra's mother, asking him, like, have you spoken with my daughter? I haven't heard from her in months either. You know, I'm worried. Can you get in contact with her and stuff? So then that puts Murphy into basically going down memory lane, and it just starts going off from there. And he's recounting all the times he's been with Elektra and stuff.
And what's it called? And I love that ending. I love him just being with being the product of his mistakes, being with baby Gaspar in the bath, crying and telling him like that his life wasn't fair, and that he's sorry that you know, he basically fathered a child that he didn't want, and then he ends up, you know, by living in the fantasy that he always wanted, which was, you know, to just be snuggled up with to go back to that first night that he was with her, when they're in the shower together and they're hugging each other tightly. And yeah, Murphy's a really, really, one-dimensional, but very at the end you start to see like those rays of like, yeah, this guy learned his lesson way too late.
Yeah, he kind of I guess he kind of stood back and saw himself and how he played out in that whole situation, and realized, yeah, I was kind of an asshole.
Yep.
And it's, you know, unfortunately it was too late. He couldn't say that to Elektra because, you know, my whole thing is that she probably, since she went back on drugs, obviously, because they start to show that when they break up, after she finds out that he, you know, impregnated Omi.
Yeah.
She goes back to his dealer, which was originally his friend, and starts doing coke and all that. So she probably OD'd or something, which is really sad. But
yeah. By the way, it's Julio, not Diego. I just remembered it was Julio, not Diego.
Julio, like, there you go. Okay.
Where did I pull Diego from? But when we come back, we'll be continuing our conversation about Love 2015. But in the meantime, go ahead and listen to these commercials, and we'll see you in a bit. Hey, I'm Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, it is from AEW to SmackDown, to Raw, to NXT. Nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Raul, and I'm one of the hosts of the Nerdy Chicano Show. The Nerdy Chicano Show is a comedic show brought to you by Luis and myself, and it comes to you all every Sunday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. You can catch it a day early by becoming a Patreon and supporting us at the $1 tier. And I don't really know how to explain this show other than it's fun. We get to talk about whatever we want, and it helps you move on in the week. So if you want to catch the Nerdy Chicano Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. All you got to do is go to anchor.fm/thenerdcore, and we'll see you there, baby. Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore Podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
All right, you're back, and you're listening to The Cinema Condition with Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and we're still talking about Love from Gaspar Noe. And as always, I have with me my guest, Alejandro Almeida. the official artist of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, and the amazing person that she is, because she's the reason why I started the show, because she said yes to doing an episode with me. So we're continuing on our conversation about Gaspar Noé's love, and we just finished our conversation really about the character of Murphy and the way that Gaspar really does depict the man. And there's a lot to talk about because the women are very, especially in this one, Elektra's really, she's really sweet. She's really tender. Like, at the beginning before she derails, right? She's a really tender woman. She's very understanding. She wants communication. That's really all she wants.
She just wants to feel like they're moving together, not that she's, holding him back or he's holding her back. She just wants to, push forward. That's it.
Yeah.
And be together. That's all she wants.
Yeah. Whereas, Omi, even though we don't get, we don't get a lot of Omi before the pregnancy. She have a threesome, she impregnates him, that's it. But the Omi we get in the beginning of the film, when he's like, whatever, worry about your stuff, and I'm just gonna go out with my kid, and you deal with your stuff. Like, she's very much like, I care about this kid. I don't care what's going on with you right now. Like, you need to get over this already.
Yeah, she says, her line that she says is, you worry about your past and I'll go worry about your future, or I'll take care of your future. Exactly.
I think that's such an impactful line too, because it does kind of get to Murphy, because he has that vision of Elektra right in front of him, and it's one of my favorite lines in the film too, because it's like, Omi's like, in the sense, it's like, I'm glad you manned up and you stayed with me with the kid, but like, I also need you to be here, to be present, and you're not present right now, and you're not communicating with me what's actually happening. So I can't help you. So until you figure out what's going on, it's when I can help you. And it's sad because when she comes back and she sees him crying in the shower, she can't do anything past that. She's like, I have to let this all out.
Yeah. Yeah, she just kind of peeks in and then just, leaves.
Yeah. And it's not like a peeks in, like, oh, I don't care. The face that she puts, it's very much, this is his recovery. Like, he needs to let go of this, and
he needs to go through this.
Yeah, like, I have to let him feel this. So, it doesn't come from like a place of spite of him. Like, it's just her wanting him to heal, and that's why I'm telling you, the women in this film are very tender. They're very tender, they're very loving, except I can't remember her name. I don't think we ever get her name, but she's one of my favorite characters because she just doesn't care. She's like, I just want to have sex. Like, that's it. Like, you just happened to be the dude I had sex with.
She's like, I don't care about your problems.
I don't care about your, which on one hand I respect, because at least she's doing the thing that that Murphy refuses to do, which is communicate. But on the other hand, I'm like, this guy just broke up with his girlfriend. He's still pretty much drunk, and you're telling him you don't care about his problems. Like, dude, like, you picked the wrong time to open your mouth right now.
He's like a moment away from like almost crying, and then she's like, what did she say? She said, you fall in love, you're the idiot, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
you're the loser if you fall in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, I was not expecting that.
I was like, dude, and it's funny because anybody would have got read that as like terrible acting at first. She's like, are you okay? And she's just being condescending, like, dude, what's wrong? Why couldn't you get it up? Like, you had no trouble when you were tipsy at the club with me, and now you're over here like you couldn't get it up.
You had no problem with your girlfriend in the room next door, and now all of a sudden you guys are broken up and you can't. She's like, what am I here for?
I'm telling you, it's like, I'm telling you, the man knows how to write comedy, and I don't know if that's part of the script that he wrote, or if that's just them being themselves. which is, I'm telling you, he puts them into situations where this humor, it just comes out organically.
Yeah, like and the thing I noticed with Elektra too is that when you say she's tender, she's very patient with Murphy, because the times that he freaks out, especially when he's already drunk at the gallery show and they're drinking the champagne, and he's basically arguing with her, and he's saying out loud, like very loud and belligerently, saying these French assholes and they got their heads so far up their asses, and he's talking really loud.
Yeah.
And she's like embarrassed, but she's also trying to tell him, like, you know what, just go home. You know, I'll take a taxi, just go home. Exactly. She's trying to get him to go home, and he won't. He's refusing to.
Because
frustration, but she doesn't do anything.
And if she was any other type of woman, she would have just if she would have been the terrible girlfriend that Murphy makes her out to be, right? The terrible person that Murphy has in his mind, she would have just embarrassed him in there and just continued to scream at her, and they would scream at each other and have this big fuss of a fight. But she's able to to be mature and say, you leave, we can continue this at the apartment. Like right now, like I'm at a very important thing for me, because this could really help my career, and I do not want you messing this up for me.
Yeah, she could have easily, you know, what's the reaction that you see is like somebody throwing a drink in somebody's face or something. Like that would have been something that I could have seen happening if she wasn't this, you know, patient.
Yeah.
She could have easily just been like, you know what, went off on some tangent or something. Yeah.
And it's interesting because you know, it's once again, it's that you know, ingrained thing about, you know, that men expect their women to be very patient with them, but the men aren't patient. And it's, you know, it's a two-way street that this needs to work on. And I think that's one of the main things that this film teaches you, is that, you know, the connection is a two-way street. You know, the way that you handle the relationship you're in, it goes both ways.
It shows. It also shows gaslighting.
Yes.
To the max, like to the fullest. Especially with, you know, with Murphy constantly either making her feel like this is all her fault, why he makes these decisions himself. It's not like she holds a gun to his head and tells him to do these things. And I don't know. It's just crazy to see how Gaspar was able to kind of write the whole yin and the yang thing, but also have Elektra have her limits. Like she could have easily kept going with him forever.
Yeah,
they could have kept doing this dance over and over and over again. But finally, the final straw obviously was him getting another girl pregnant.
Yeah, and that was the moment where he's like, you know what, like, no, like I'm not dealing with this. Like that's it. That's the final straw. I'm not gonna accept this. And she knew her limits, and she was like, I'm out. And I think that's just it. And that's why when people tell me it's just artistic porn, I'm like, no, there's more to this. Like in this almost 50 minutes of an episode, I want to say we haven't even touched the sex yet, and that's the next thing I'm going to touch. But like there's layers to the film about the way the relationships work, the way that you treat the people that you're supposed to care about, and in a sense, just that whole dissection of who we are as people, and especially when we're thrusted into an area that we know nothing about, and you're supposed and you think that this new area that you're going into is just this very liberating space where there's no repercussions for who I am, and it's like you can get in trouble in France. Like no, this is not your fantasy land where you think you can throw a glass at a person's head and not have a repercussion for it. Like there's consequences to your actions.
It was another kind of slightly humorous scene that Gaspar throws in there, where Murphy's just standing there drunkenly looking at her ex and goes, "Do you have a headache?" And he's like, "No." He's all, "Oh," and he grabs a champagne glass and just smashes it over his head. Yeah, now you do.
And I love just the sudden, then the cutaway, and then the focus on the finger, like, I'm gonna catch you, you little shit. I'm gonna instead of him saying like I'm gonna kick your ass or anything, he's like, I'm gonna call the police. Oh man, Yeah, and that's I'm telling you, that's the characterization, just the character work is incredible, and I want to know if it's just pointers from Gaspar how to act like that, or just it's them taking control of their characters, and I would say if it is them taking control of their characters, I think that's just amazing of them. And
Yeah, I feel like it has to be, especially with 7 pages, only 7 pages written.
mm-hmm. I really wonder. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the section that is going to get us all the views, right? This is the like you talk about love. This is what people are going to want to talk about. Let's talk about the sex scenes in this film. There's something I wrote. I wrote in my head. It's in my head that I wanted to bring up. Every single film, every single part in this film that is the sections, it all looks like a painting. It literally all looks like a painting. That from the first moment, not the opening scene. Like the first moment they're in bed together, and Electra is on her stomach, and Murphy is laying his head on her stomach, and he's smoking his cigarette, and you just see all of her body exposed and him just smoking. It looks like a Renaissance painting.
It does, and that's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, is that.
Yes. And then just the angle he chooses to film the threesome in. Like I said, if he wanted to make this porn, he would have used the porn angles. Like just, okay, a high angle of, the girl eating her out, and then him, hitting her from the back and her eating her out, and her playing with her nipples or something, right? Like it would have been basic. But he instead has the camera on top, and it doesn't move. It's just them doing the movement.
They're basically, doing a nice little tango.
Mm-hmm. They're taking
in bed
control
while the camera's just chilling up at the top.
Yeah, they're taking control. And I love the whole. I love when they're in bed. You also don't get like the, where the camera would be in front, not actually in front of them, not on top of them, but in front, and you get like the whole like more of the blanket and their head. Like no, it's on top. It's looking down on them, and it's like half of them coming up, and it's like it's interesting because it's like if they're looking, it's like you're actually seeing these people in bed, like you're just looking down on them, like this is what's going on.
Yeah, and it starts off, the camera's still on top.
Yeah.
But it starts off with them upside down. They appear upside down in the image. And then it switches over when they start to like really get into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of pointers to that is Gaspar, but it also is his cinematographer, Benoit Deby, who, is incredible cinematographer. I mean, this is the man who's done all his films, all Gaspar's films. He's also responsible for Spring Breakers, the cinematography in that. I'm not a fan of that film, but the cinematography in that movie is amazing. The Beach Bum as well, and a couple of other films that he's worked on. He's one of my favorites, up there with Chivo Lubeski. He's incredible, and yeah, I'm telling you, every single one of these sex scenes feels like it's a painting, and it's not just because of the framing. It's also the music that he includes, and so before the beginning is when. Before the beginning from Joshua Frusciante is with Omi and Murphy. I want to know the song that plays during the threesome. That one's also a really, really good one.
That song I've actually heard before.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually like this is a stupid way to remember it, but it was in a House episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was towards the end, I believe, and it was in one of the more recent seasons. And I remember hearing it because I was like, I think they were doing like a drug bust. So there was no dialogue and all you hear is the music. And it was the guitar that comes in and it starts playing. And I was like, what is this song? The song sounds incredible. And I still haven't figured out how to find out.
I might just ask Siri to find out for me. But I really want to know because So I was watching, once again, going back to the interviews. The interviewer, and I'm not going to say anything about the interview because I actually enjoy Ben Bateman. I think he's an incredible podcaster, incredible just content creator. But he asked probably one of the weirdest questions to ask him. And he was like, what's it called? I think he asked some, it's interesting you say this is important, but you include one of the most, like some of the most basic, like, 60s kind of pornish type of music with the electric guitars. And, Gaspar kind of just says it's what felt good for the scene. And it's like, oh, come on. So, and it's true. It's true what Gaspar says. None of those other songs would have fit well in that scene. And those that you needed that sensual, kind of tender but very, very angry feeling from the guitar in those two scenes, and it really matches well with the sex that's presented in there.
And none of the music sounded, out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the music was very faint and you can barely hear it, like when they were in the hallway having sex at, I don't know if it was a club, it had to have been, but the music was loud enough to where you can hear it through the walls, but it wasn't loud to where it took over the whole scene.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it didn't feel like stupid, like corny or anything like that. It like felt like this is what's supposed to be there.
Yeah, because that's literally how it sounds. And as somebody like Gaspar who goes to constant clubs, that's how it sounds when you're in the restroom taking a crap and the music is blasting outside.
Yeah,
that's how it sounds. And I love that about this. I love that about that scene, especially because you're hearing that. And my favorite line: "That's not coke." It's the line delivery on that. That's not coke. And it's like, no shit, bro. That's a condom. Or it's like, yeah, it's the other way, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really drunk. I'm like, okay, what? Oh man, it's really interesting. And what's it called? The sex also goes from being really, really rough in the beginning to being very tender towards the end. Well, with Murphy and Elektra, it goes from being really, really rough to being really tender and really what's it called, sensual.
Right. Yeah, it's because when it starts off, it goes, his memories go from most recent to the farthest memory of when they first met. When they first met comes in more around the end of the movie, right?
Yes.
Where he starts to flash to all the good moments, like when we first met, and it's all all honeymoon, blah blah blah. And then, but they start off with he's already cheated, fucked up, she knows all this stuff, and so they're kind of doing like was it angry sex and all that stuff.
Especially when he finds out that she cheated and everything. Like the sex that they have after is like super rough. Like he's angry. He's letting out a lot of emotions. But the stuff that you find out towards the end of the film, when it was the beginning, was very tender. It was very caring. Like he really did want to treasure every moment that he had with her. Alex, you there?
Sorry.
It's okay.
It cut out.
It happened during the first episode too. Remember when we had that cut and we were like, wait, you back? Yeah, you're there. Don't worry, you're good. But the end, towards the end, the sex and towards the end of the film is very tender, very loving. Because that's a Murphy that doesn't know if he's ever going to see Elektra again past that one night. So he's like, I'm going to make the best of it because I pretty much just met one of the most incredible women I've ever met, and I want to treasure every moment I have with her. There's a very big, you feel a sense of, like appreciation, but also a respect for the body her body.
Right. Yeah. And he says that too. At the end when I think he's about ready to get in the shower, and he says, "Oh God, if you can just give me that first night back that we were together, like I'll never ask for anything again."
Yeah, and I love that because the line delivery from like I said, the line delivery from Glusman on that point, it's like he's miserable. He's like, just give me that one, just give it to me, just send it to me, send me back. I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go back to that one night. He goes, he's ready to give up everything. He's ready to give up the drug. He's ready to give up the women. He's ready to give up his sense of entitlement to her. He's ready to be, the person he should have been at the beginning.
Yeah, he's ready to, actually give it a shot and not just kind of fly off the handles like he did before.
Yeah. so that's and it's incredible the way that he just shoots those. And like I said, it's not pornography because there's not pornography to me because I think that there's more feeling to those scenes. There's more feeling in this one film than there is in the whole catalog on Pornhub. There's more feeling in this. And yeah, the whole what's it called, the whole reason to this film isn't to get you off. This isn't to get you off. This is to feel something. And I think that
To make you cry.
it's to make you cry. I remember he said this is the film that will this is a film that will make men hard and will make women cry, which is I think is completely bullshit because it makes me really emotional. And by this point, 4 rewatches, I'm just like, yeah, I'm more appreciating the art of the sex. It's like I'm not like, oh wow, look what I'm watching. Because like at first when I watched this film and that opening scene happens, I'm like, oh well, that's how we're gonna start. All right. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And 4th rewatch, I'm like, I'm loving every way that he's created and crafting this.
And it feels a lot, especially with that opening scene. That's Gaspar's way of saying, this is what you have to look forward to. You either stay or you leave. Get out now if you can't handle this scene, which is one of the more probably tame scenes out of the whole film.
Yeah, dude, that's probably one of the most tame ones, and it was great. It was great because it's like starting like that, you're like, oh wow, like it's like I feel like that's also the way that so if a family were to like hit love and they're like, oh, let's watch this on Netflix because this is on Netflix. I'm pretty sure that was the way of him saying like, okay, this is what it is. Get out of it before you're not watching this with the people you need to be watching. This is not the film you want to watch, and get out because this is what it is.
This is not the 3D film you were expecting.
This is not the 3D. This is not what's it called, the fun Star Wars blasters coming in and throwing down. It's a whole different type of blasting. Yeah. So I believe that is honestly all I have left to talk about. I really talked about everything I wanted to bring up. I wanted to talk about the characters. I wanted to talk about a lot about the what's it called, the sex in it. Oh, never mind. I have one last thing. I really wanted to bring this up. I love the way that he depicts France and Paris in this film. It's beautiful to look at those streets and the apartments and just all the architecture that he decides to what's it called, to capture. Those long walks that they take is just absolutely just taking in the breath and just the beauty of the what's it called, the landscapes that they're in. I love that about this film.
The cave. I like the one where they're walking through the cave.
Mm-hmm.
And she's asking them. That's when they get into like their more serious conversations. And she starts asking him, about, what do you want in life and, all these things. And that's when he finally like kind of opens up. Because at first he's kind of just like, oh, I'm just going to make this girl laugh and, just try and go sleep with her. But then, they start getting into some real conversation. And I just love the whole background of those conversations that takes place.
Yeah. And I think that once again, it's just showing you that like what real intimacy is beyond, the body. Like there's sentimental value to your relationship. It's not just the fucker. Like she's more than that. And it's kind of what, the film constantly has to say. Like us as humans, we're more than what we are. We're more than our pieces of meat. We're very abstract, we're very abstract humans, we're beings that have a lot of room to grow, to learn more about ourselves, but we need to do it before we mess up incredibly bad.
Right. Or just be honest about it. I mean, we all make mistakes, and I think that he's showing that throughout the whole film from both characters, because like we said, Elektra's not perfect.
Yeah.
But at least just be honest and own up to him and know that, okay, you know what, I made a mistake. This is what I'm going to do to not make the same mistake.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up that I didn't get to bring up yet before we go ahead and finish this?
Oh, I think we covered everything, actually.
Yeah.
Even though the movie seems like it dives into a lot, it really just kind of it's in chunks.
It's in chunks. Some people were saying, like, the reviews are like, oh, it's so hard to follow because he's constantly going back, going into the future, going to the present. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I really think this movie is easy to follow. You just pay attention to it. Yes, I think it is a little bit long, but what's it called? After 4 rewatches, I memorized the stuff that I'm getting into. So I'm like, okay, maybe maybe this is a little bit too long, but I think this is Gaspar's masterpiece. I think that this is the film that I constantly want to rewatch, and no, it's not because of the sex. Like, I don't want to rewatch it because I think that this is one of his most intimate and one of his most emotional films. I say the same thing about Irreversible. I think Irreversible is like pretty, like, wow, like really, 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 it's multi-layered. Yeah, look, Enter the Void was his passion project. There's a lot of stuff going on there about death and about, the whole idea of being the God perspective. But, like, other than that, like, I think even though that was his passion project, I think that Love, Irreversible, Climax are really the films where he really shines through.
I agree. And Into the Void is probably my favorite one. Mm-hmm. But I will say the main reason is aesthetically.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that aesthetic is beautiful.
It's just insane. It's so beautiful.
One of the best title sequences ever. Just boom, 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 boom. Just everything coming. I love that about the man knows. I love him just doing that stuff. Where I love how he just puts text on screen. Not a lot of filmmakers do that. It's like a callback to silent film eras when you would put the text on the screen to say the dialogue that you couldn't hear. I love that about him, that he does that, and I think it really does amplify the film.
He's genius with that stuff. I love it.
Yeah, he's amazing. And that is our conversation on Gaspar Noé's Love. And I hope that everybody had a wonderful time listening to this. Yeah, look, Audition got 184 views on YouTube. I'm asking you guys to get us to at least 100 because they're both really sexual films. So if this one doesn't get those views on YouTube, I don't know what you guys want. You guys want me to talk about what's it called, genital mutilation from Audition? Then we can talk about that with different guests. But I don't know. It's funny, Alex. That episode and then our interview about sex and film, what's it called, are the most viewed on our channel.
Really?
The fucking horny bastards, aren't they? Horny bastards. I'm telling you. Goodness gracious.
The internet is wild.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, the Patreon supporters are the ones who get this episode a week earlier than everybody else. So, if you want to go ahead and join up on that. I understand right now during our times that we find ourselves in, it's a little bit tough to bait for things. That's why I'm saying don't worry about it. You can keep listening to this at the normal time. I do ask you, though, this is the one thing you can do that is definitely not monetary. And it's probably the one thing that matters the most to me. Please open up the Apple Podcast app if you have it, or any other podcast apps that you're allowed to make reviews on. Go to the review section of that app and leave a review for this feed, and leave one for the Nerdcore as well. But relatively speaking, I'm talking on this feed, so please leave it on this feed and leave a review on the Cinema Condition podcast feed because it would help a lot. It's what helps people find the show and helps people find us easier, and we can kind of grow the show as it goes. So please just open up that app and leave a review for us. For me, it would be really, really wonderful if you could do that. As always, thenerdcore.com. I'm going to work on that whole recommended viewing for you guys so you can follow along with the Cinema Condition if you guys want to watch the films that we discuss. So I'll go in and get to work on that soon so you guys can have that available at your disclosure. And thenerdcore.com, as always, you can find a bunch of reviews that I do on there as well. And Alex, where can they find you on the internet?
Andzone on Twitter. And I just changed my Instagram back to by Alex Alm, BYALEX.
I believe
ALM.
I'm sorry, BYALEXALM. By the way, I believe it's Zans_zone on Twitter.
Twitter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't remember anymore.
I memorize your handles. I memorize everybody's handles better than people remember theirs.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing then. But yeah, I'm not as active on Instagram, but Twitter, I'm all over it.
Yep. You can find her tweeting about all the stuff, man. You know, she talks about she's always constant. The one thing I love about Alex is that she always replies to my tweets, the ones that she wants to reply to, with GIFs, and it's just funny seeing what she pulls out because it's just great. I really do enjoy the company that Alex gives me, and I thank her so much for starting the show with me. And this is the last time I'll have her on for this season. But when we come back next season, we'll start with a Portrait of a Lady on Fire and see what else she wants to do. But if you guys like having Alex on, make sure you tweet the Nerdcore _ or on Instagram the Nerdcore, or you can find me on the Nerdy Chicano on Instagram and Twitter, and tweet about how you want Alex more on the show. It would be really wonderful to do that. So I want to thank you so much for coming on, Alex, and I'm pretty sure this is our longest episode yet. And if it's not, I wonder which one it is. But it's been really fun having you here.
Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to be back.
Of course, until season 2, my friend. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week. I don't know what I'm bringing next week. I want to bring a new guest, but if I have to bring back somebody else, let's be honest, it's probably going to be Brad. But if I can bring somebody new on next week, it'd be really wonderful. So just stay tuned for the next episode, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.